By using some artistic processes, scientists can find better problems. They can generate more solutions that they ultimately employ. So the scientific process includes a lot of things that are very creative and very artistic. And if we fail to give kids the opportunity to practice those creative generative moments, we're doing kids a disservice.
We've never collected something we didn't love.
Oh, yeah.
Never. I think people do that related to what the potential of price appreciation. Again, an early collector's mistake.
If we both like a work, we buy it. If I like a work, we talk about it.
Welcome to Vita Brevis, a podcast about business, art, life, and death. I'm your host, Carlos Cardenas. Here we explore how business, creativity, and philanthropy intersect through the lives of remarkable people. I talk with entrepreneurs and community leaders who are passionate collectors and visionary patrons to discover how art shapes their work, purpose, and legacy. Because life is short, but art is forever.
Chers amis, queridos amigos, and dearest friends of the pod, welcome back to Vita Brevis. Today we are pulling back the curtain on what it actually means to live with, fund, and deeply connect with contemporary art, completely stripping away the usual intimidation and gallery gatekeeping. My guests today are Stephen Mills and Brent Hasty. Stephen is the visionary artistic director and choreographer at the Ballet Austin, constantly navigating the delicate tug-of-war between traditional funding and progressive programming. Brent holds a PhD in curriculum studies and is the driving force behind MINDPOP, a brilliant nonprofit dedicated to expanding creative learning and ensuring kids in public schools have true systemic access to the arts. Together for nearly 30 years, they have built an incredible, deeply personal collection. Walking through their home means encountering profound history-hacking works by legendary artists like Kehinde Wiley, Wolfgang Tillmans, Louis Fratino, and Andres Serrano. But for Stephen and Brent, this has never been about trophy hunting or status symbols. It is an extension of their daily work, living with immediate, powerful conversations about identity, representation, and the radical beauty of ordinary, intimate human experiences. In this episode, we meander through their journey from the very beginning, starting with a single small painting carefully packaged into a suitcase during an early trip to Paris. They share how they have resourcefully grown their collection over the years within the boundaries of two nonprofit salaries, relying on intuition and investing in artists early in their careers. We also dive deep into the philosophy of how art actively transforms us, exploring the idea that while a canvas remains static, we are the variable that grow and evolve every time we pass it. Finally, Brent unpacks the work of educational theorist Elliot Eisner, proving that art isn't just a pleasant emotional outlet, but a vital cognitive tool that trains the brains to process information, think metaphorically, and solve real-world problems. This is a warm, expansive conversation about curiosity, partnership, and the quiet power of living with art. Here is my conversation with Brent and Stephen. You guys mentioned that you are traveling to Europe this summer. You leave next week, right?
Yes, we leave, and we are on our way to see the Venice Biennale, and then a short little trip to Paris before finally ending up in Milan.
Okay. So very institutional art summer for you guys, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What are you guys really excited to see?
Well, I think there's been so much controversy around the Biennale this time, so that's going to be exciting. No matter what, that's going to
The
be
American
exciting.
Pavilion?
Well, the American Pavilion and then the untimely death of the
Oh,
curator, of course,
yes, of course.
and so all of that, and no matter what, we've seen, we've been going to the Biennale for about 20 years, so we've seen all sorts of different works, and so it'll be interesting to see. It's always fun.
20 years, huh? Biennale.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's amazing.
at
Yeah.
least.
It's nice.
Did you guys go there early on in your collecting career?
Yeah. I think it's
I
hard to
think
say
we
when we started to collect, but when we go to Europe, if the Biennale is going, we try to get to Venice to see it because it's such a great snapshot of what people think wherever they are in the arts ecosystem about
Yeah.
what's happening in the world.
Well, what's interesting about the biennial is it's kind of separated from the sort of art fair and auction circuit. I mean, it's much less sort of commercially focused, right? I mean, the scale tends to be institutional,
Yeah.
a lot of video work, a lot of installation. And of course, countries all over the world are represented. So it's not just, the sort of market powerhouses that are represented.
And it's not just focused on American
Yeah.
artists, which is really vital because when you're if you're thinking about the collection of art, it's important to know lots of different perspectives and artists that we would maybe not encounter otherwise. And then after seeing their work at the Biennale, coming back and doing more research and getting to know them better, and it's always very interesting.
Yeah. And you said you're also going to go to you're going to go to Milan and see what Prada Foundation?
Yeah, we're excited about that. And we've never been to Milan. We've been to the airport, but not to the
Okay.
city.
Okay.
So we'll just spend a couple days there,
Great.
and maybe
And in Paris, you have to go see my friend Henry Taylor's show at the Picasso Museum.
nice. Yes, that was a clever pairing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was very natural.
Yeah.
What else are you guys going to see in Paris? And mostly the commercial galleries.
Yeah.
Well, we're
Definitely.
going on a trip which is specifically designed for being produced by the company that I work for. We're taking a group of donors to Paris, and we're going to see the Paris Opera Ballet.
Okay.
So Brent and I are having personal experiences with art as well as these experiences with the ballet. So
The Ballet Austin.
the company, Ballet Austin, is taking a group of donors
Mhm.
to Paris. Yes. Yes.
Oh, great. Great.
Uh-huh.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And I mean, the Paris Opera Ballet is one of the greatest companies in the world. So it's going to be a wonderful experience.
Do they have summer programming?
They are about to close. I think this is their last series of performances of the ballet before the Garnier closes for 2 years
Oh, wow.
for renovation. So it's timely to be able to see ballet, just before this closure.
Garnier, that's the traditional one in
Yes.
the opera station.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's so beautiful.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
So we'll see some contemporary work by Crystal Pike, and then at the Bastille, we'll see classic Le Bayadère. It'll be very nice.
Amazing. And of course, you guys are going to eat well.
Yes.
I sent you a map of restaurants.
Yes, I've started tagging them. We're excited about that.
Yeah.
We're excited about that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the galleries are doing such great shows, and there's a lot of things we look forward to seeing.
Yeah. Well, generally speaking, the summer shows are, a lot of group shows and things like this. But a lot of galleries get excited about people coming to Venice, as well as Art Basel,
Right.
which opens, this weekend. Well, early next week.
Yeah.
So people really sort of put their best foot forward there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not go. This is the first year we're not going in a handful of years. So we're starting to second guess our summer planning, that we should have stopped by Basel.
Yeah. You should never.
Yeah.
No regrets, right?
No regrets. No regrets.
Okay. So, talking about going to some of these galleries in Paris, and I'm thinking back to when you guys started collecting. How many years ago was that? When you guys started?
We've been together almost 30 years, and I think we bought our first piece of art together on one of those early trips, and we were in Paris.
Yeah.
And the painting was a small painting by an artist named Gabriel Schmitz, and we still hold it sentimentally to our hearts. So that was really the beginning part of that. Put it in the suitcase and brought it back with us. It was just like that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So were you guys immediately comfortable in the sort of white cube environment? Because they can be really intimidating. And I know a lot of people, unfortunately, don't really get their feet wet in the art world because, they're in this church-like space almost, and there's sometimes a cold person sitting behind a desk, and it almost seems by design to kind of, separate people.
I think if you assume that sort of cold standoffishness is because of you and you take it personally, it might be more intimidating than if you just assume that that's part of uh, the experience.
Uh-huh.
When we were early on, we just said, "Oh, that's them. We'll enjoy time together and talk about work." And we had the comfort of each other,
Yeah.
of looking at work. Um, Making the move to actually ask how much a work costs and can we buy it and those kinds of things certainly took some time and some effort.
Did you feel like you had to be a millionaire to even kinda have this kind of conversation?
Well, I think that, you start in small ways, in very, very small ways. And art collecting is sort of an addictive behavior, sadly. And you start small and before you know it, you're you're really heavily involved. Um, I think that, what we imagined as being, I imagine the first painting we bought, we really had to take a super big gulp to put the money down for that work. And I think that the thing that's most important to us has always been supporting artists of all sort in our work. And so, an amount of money for a work of art, understanding is going to benefit the artist is really the helpful part of it for us.
It's like the activist component to it.
A little bit. I mean, it's sort of passive activism, but it's always a way of, in my work, supporting emerging choreographers has been a huge, huge important thing for me, and in Brent's work of supporting artists and teaching artists has been important. So this seems like it's a little bit of just an extension of that impulse in our daily lives.
So clearly, your interest in art is way beyond anything like trophy hunting or buying status or anything like this. It seems like you guys are invested in a sort of social engagement, right?
For us, it works. For me, it works on a lot of levels. I think there's the personal level, and then there's a community level, and there's a bigger social level, and all of those exist at the same time for me. So at the social level, sure, we want to make sure that the arts ecosystem is vibrant. As Stephen said, we really recognize that artists play a valuable role in it, and collectors are part of fueling that ecosystem.
Oh, yeah.
And so making sure that we're clear about that. On an institutional level, we had conversations early on about what is the visibility of LGBTQ and queer artists in museum institutions. And if we didn't see enough of them to our liking, we had a responsibility to promise gifts from our collection, to make sure that the kids coming up saw themselves and were represented in museum collections. So there's that part of it. And then on the personal level, um, it's just important for us to have those conversations with artists, to live with artists. Stephen is an artist. I was trained as an artist, but being able to live with those conversations. So to live with those conversations in a way that is so immediate. Every time you look at this wall or this wall or this wall, you see a conversation that an artist is having with the world, and
Yeah.
that's exciting
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah. And that dialogue between yourself and an artwork and your partner or other art lovers, I mean, that's kind of really where things come to life, right? Is sort of like when you get to sort of share and think about them and talk about the ideas.
We love nothing more than opening our home to artists or to collectors or to institutions and get to host a dinner and have people look at the art and have conversations around it. Having you here is really a lot of
I
fun.
met you guys through it was Nick Campbell's.
Yeah.
So you guys host a lot here then.
We
Some.
do. Well, we have, and not just art-centric circles of people, but also there's no reason to have a collection if you don't share it, and to allow people who are not necessarily focused on art in their lives, or even brush up against it or care about it even that much, to have them in the home and to be able to talk about things, because no one just comes into the house and sits down. Everybody always walks in and asks questions about particular works. When we make an acquisition, as Brent said, we have really long conversations about the artist, about the particular work, about those sort of things. And then as we live with the work over time, those conversations change. And the more you have to explain it to someone when they come in the house, if they don't know the artist or haven't really thought deeply about it, it allows you to investigate for yourself the deeper meaning of that work. Like every time you tell a story, you learn something new about it, about that story. Things that you haven't even thought about. There's a painting here by Turquoise Dyson that it was only recently that I recognized that the underpainting was this blue, because when you have someone visiting you that you stand in front of it, you're not just talking about it, you're actually looking at it more deeply than maybe you actually did when you hung it. It's interesting how your perception of the work changes over time.
Yeah.
And because you're caused to have to think about it and express your thoughts about it, it helps you understand it even better for yourself.
Well, I think that's something that's fascinating about this, and I mentioned this in a talk I gave a few weeks ago. The work is actually static, right? So you are the sort of variable that's growing, that's changing every day. It's not the work. We have this tendency to say, "Oh, every time I look at it, I see something different." It's like,
no, and it's a very flat painting. And so the way you look at it changes the closer you get to it. So it's a very curious painting to me.
Well, it's interesting because in that circumstance, and I guess with all works, if you give it a chance, you sort of become a lifelong learner. You're learning from this object because it's sort of, if you give it a chance, you get to think about it, more specifically, your relationship to it, and you get to see yourself evolve.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
But isn't that how it is with everything? The longer you sit with something, the more you know it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're curious enough, I guess there are people for whom curiosity is not the point, but it would seem that whether it was a work of art or a piece of music that you've heard since you were very young, that you keep going back to for some reason, or a place, that causes memory to happen, and then multiple layers of memory. So I think that's the way we think about the work in our collection. It's like, you would imagine, if you were thinking about art as a decorative work, that you would move it around a lot. But that's not the way we perceive art. So the work generally stays where it is, and our lives allow us, each morning to pass that painting, and to think about it, and then causes us to talk about it. Hey, I never noticed this about this. Have you ever seen that? And it's curious.
And adding to not only the interpretation of the individual work as a unitary piece, but seeing it in proximity to other pieces. Seeing the turquoise next to the Paul Sepoya, next to the Frank Walter, they start to have a conversation about geometric form and identity and and representation that I find really, really interesting. And from those two from a different generation, from the Frank Walter, but you start to see some of those same shapes that are in the vocabulary of both the other two artists is really fascinating to me. So
Who else do you guys get to share these conversations with? I mean, obviously with each other, but are you in regular dialogue with curators or
Well, our
critics?
dog Lucy listens very intently,
Oh, that's great.
as you
That's
can
great.
see. Yeah.
we really admire Philip Townsend, the curator at the art gallery at Black Studies.
Okay.
We
I met him. Yes, he's a
he
great
gets
guy.
to spend a lot of time here, and really, it's fun to have those conversations because he's so smart. And the great Veronica Roberts, who's now the director of the Cantor Museum at Stanford.
And she was at Blanton
She was at
before.
Blanton.
And now she's at Stanford.
Yeah. So she moved from a curator role to the executive director role.
It's so important to have those conversations, I feel.
Yeah.
Well, and Veronica was a friend of ours, and so we weren't having teacher mentor kind of conversations, right?
Yeah.
We would go to fairs and we would look and we would talk. It was just about, hey, that's interesting. What do you think of that?
Yeah.
And why do you like that? So it's really interesting to have someone, because she's a real leader, and to have someone getting a perspective such as hers. It's
And
interesting.
Philip as well,
Yeah.
as a friend coming and spending time.
Well, it's interesting as a
Yeah.
friend, you can sort of let your guard down, and it's almost like having a drink or something with a friend. You
Exactly.
can sort of let your true self, you, we have a tendency to be guarded in these,
Yeah.
sort of serious intellectual conversations, but it's also nice to just kind of gossip sometimes.
That's right. That's
Right.
right.
And
That's
it's
right.
actually part of the fun. I think personally is, some of the more catty stuff involved in the art world, You
Gossip
guys,
is fun. Gossip is fun no matter what,
yes,
whether it's involved in art or not.
yes, yeah. It's always fun. It was interesting because you guys know Jerry Gagosian, I imagine, and that she
Mhm.
passed away a few weeks ago. A lot of mixed feelings about that. But what was kind of interesting is she kind of really brought to the forefront uh, the kind of hidden underbelly of the art world, the backstabbing, the jealousy, the sort of soap opera.
Mhm.
And, the sort of packaging was somehow that we were always kind of above this, but the truth is no. So she kind of exposed uh, the sort of less intellectual side of the art world, but it's, a very sort of prevalent side. It's part of the language for better or for worse. So what about finding consensus between the two of you when you acquire work? I mean, I imagine you have to, well, what's your policy there? Do you have to agree on something to some degree, or do things have to be unanimous? How does a couple collect art?
How does a couple collect art? Let's see. You want to start?
Well, Jeannie and Mickey Klein, the great collectors,
Yeah.
told us a funny joke. I'm not sure if they made the joke up or if they borrowed it from someone, but regardless, it's brilliant. Jeannie said, if Mickey likes a work, we buy it. If we both like a work, we buy it. If I like a work, we talk about it. And the good news is that Stephen and I both have, we have a lot of overlap in our tastes, and we like a lot of the same works. We're interested in similar conversations because we've been together for a long time. And so works that have a similar conversation appeal to us. We both like technique. We both like issues of representation. We both like conversations about our lived experience. So more often than not, it's easy to find a work that we can afford that we both like.
But there have been situations in which, one of us liked to work better than the other, and we each have our own money, so we don't preclude something coming into the collection just because it doesn't resonate as deeply. I mean, there's we're both Leos, we're both roughly the same age, and we vote the same. So we, we are on the same page about most things, and so yeah.
There have been times when when we've passed something up because one of us wasn't as enthusiastic. And
And boy, was that a mistake.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Is there an example?
I wouldn't want to say.
And so either we come back to it 5 years later and pay 10 times as much, or it
Or
just
it just got
becomes
away.
the fish that got away.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Vita Brevis. If you know someone who would enjoy this conversation, please share it with them. A follow or review also goes a long way in helping us grow. Thank you. And remember, life is short, but art is forever.
And you can't collect everything. So, we have some really wonderful work in the collection. Fame isn't a measure of success, but we do have, many artists who have started very young, and, we collect them right out of school. They've gone on to do other really wonderful, important things. And so I think we have a pretty good track record in that respect, but you can never tell. You can never tell what's going to happen in a career.
Do you guys have a lot of work in storage?
We do have work in storage.
Yeah.
Yes, we do have work in storage.
And you mentioned donations as well.
We promised gifts, and we loaned to museums around the country and internationally as well.
Oh, wow.
So that gives us an opportunity to move things around and hang things that might be in the closet.
Got it. And you mentioned the sort of, budgetary constraints. It's not unlimited there's a lot of things to talk about here. You guys mentioned something, and I think it's important for people to know. You can sort of start small, right? There's beautiful books as an entryway into the art world. Then you can go to prints or photography. Or, you don't have to buy a $500,000 painting or whatever to sort of be engaged in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's important if you're just beginning. We didn't want to use an advisor. We wanted to make sure all the money we had to spend went as much to the artist as was possible. And so starting small, you should buy what you want. You should buy what you like.
Yeah.
And starting small allows for, like I think about, when we first started, and some of the works we were able to acquire that we've just changed, and the works don't resonate with us anymore, right? But that wasn't necessarily money wasted, because we learned a lot. And so it's like collecting is a journey in your life, not just an artistic journey, but a person's journey through life of learning.
We are two nonprofit salaries, so we are not in the corporate world, and so our budget is limited. And early on, we decided we would do a kind of like the Vogels, have a little system created, and so we both have an opportunity to consult during our careers. And Stephen's selling ballets and commissions, and I doing arts education consulting. And we would sort of earmark those extra dollars above our nonprofit salaries to collect art. Sometimes it was very little. Some years we had a good year, and we were able to buy more. But it's never been very much. So we always have to buy early.
Yeah.
We as Stephen said, I'm thinking of the Lou Fratino works. We got in from his first show in New York. He had been showing other places, but his first show with Sigmar Malloy Jenkins, the Wardell, his first show in New York. Yeah. So for us, we have to trust our instinct and buy when they're young, before they've gone on to larger galleries and our more mid-late career works. Now, there are works in our collection like Donald Moffat that we bought when he was established. artist and gets a price that he deserves. But for us, if we can't afford a painting, then a print is fine. If it's a good example of their work and the piece and the content resonates with us, it's exciting.
But we've never collected something we didn't love.
Oh yeah.
Never.
Yeah, that seems very,
Well,
very key.
But I think people do that
Oh yeah.
related to what the potential of price appreciation.
Yeah.
I did it once. In the early days before auction houses were consolidated online, you had to go to an individual auction house to see their online auction, and I bought 2 Sigmar Polke prints. And if I'm being honest with myself intellectually, I bought them because they were Sigmar Polke prints.
Okay.
And the images aren't great.
You still have the work?
Yeah, they're in the
Okay.
closet. They've never we've never hung them.
You're just not crazy about the work.
Just not crazy about it.
Wow. Was this prior to his death?
But he's an amazing artist.
Oh, he is.
Oh yeah,
These were
yeah.
horrible.
Like, yeah.
These were not exemplary again, an early collector's mistake. We want to work by Sigmar Polke. Well, you can't afford to work by Sigmar Polke, but you can afford these prints. And so we went for the prints that we don't really enjoy.
Yeah, that could definitely be an issue.
Mm-hmm. So it's just making sure. I think that very often, like particularly in those days, it's still like that. If you don't get this work now, you will never get this work. You know, that idea that you've got to hurry because there's a list, people are on the list, somebody's waiting behind you, all that sort of pressure should not be a part, in my opinion, as a collector, it should not be part of your internal conversation.
Well, dealers have been really pushing that over the last 20
Right.
20 years or so, right?
Yeah. If the work goes, the work goes. There are so many wonderful artists.
Yeah.
You know.
How did you deal with
to
that?
support?
With what?
How did that tension of finding good placement for the artist when you were a gallerist, knowing that you had more demand than you had work?
Oh my goodness. It's really complicated stuff, you know. I'm trying to think what years I had my gallery. It was in the early 2000s. And, you know, things were good, but it's a very difficult business model, you
Mm.
know. Um, as far as pitching the idea, oh, buy it now because it's gonna increase in value or it's now or never. I was never comfortable with that. You know, maybe that's why my gallery didn't last. I know a lot of very successful dealers are salesmen. They're very, very salesy,
Mhm.
and I think it works for them. It just seems a little kind of gives you the ick if you're an art lover. You know, money's important, and
Right.
artists and galleries don't live on fresh air and
Right.
clean
Right.
water. You
Right.
know, they
Right.
need.
Well,
Yeah.
right. Their job is to support their artist
Yeah.
and to advocate for that particular artist.
Yeah.
And so I'm not suggesting they're not doing their job. I'm just suggesting that if you were in that position, you should not feel the pressure to allow that to be the deciding factor about whether you take a work, whether you pursue a work or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Well, we're starting to see sort of cracks in the system. You guys heard about Pace, right?
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
severely downsizing and stuff
Mhm.
like. I'd be curious to hear about some of the other mega galleries and how they're doing. You know, the facade is always that things are great, but I've heard about a couple of galleries that closed. Like, you know, they might be international galleries, but a couple come to mind that had to close their New York branches, or one in London or something like that. You know.
Mhm.
It's just the reality of the situation. The economic model is gonna, it always changes, and we're definitely going through a period of flux right now. What's interesting for collectors like yourselves is, I mean, I don't want to suggest that the the gallery problems aren't your problems, but I mean, you guys are going to be loving and collecting art no matter what, I'm going to guess, right?
Yeah, but I mean, the gallery problems are just a symptom of larger problems economically worldwide. So that becomes everybody's problems just because, people in the art world are focusing on that. And, it's happening in all sectors
Yeah.
of business, of art making, of, dance, nonprofit. Everything is really under duress right now financially. But, um, you know, there've been other periods of history where, you know, the system has been under duress, but artists always make work.
Yeah.
And collectors always find that work and, in maybe in smaller ways, maybe but it's always happened. It will continue to happen. We will continue to be looking at artists.
Yeah, there's an sort of inevitability to like the creation and the appreciation of art, that's outside of economic considerations.
Mhm.
So it's interesting how, external circumstances can be, very challenging for a lot of people. But if you look at it differently, it just sort of is what it is. And that's a strange way of putting it, but yeah.
You mentioned the galleries' expenses have to be smaller than the revenue that comes in, just like for collectors,
Yeah,
Well, just like any business.
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's
You've gotta have more money coming in than going out, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
so.
Tell me a little bit about MINDPOP. Um, you mentioned a gentleman named Elliot Eisner, and I had the opportunity to look him up a little bit. But tell us a little bit more about the idea that for a young person who is, still studying in school, learning about art, creativity, and how that's goes way beyond just the notion of art appreciation.
Yeah. MindPop is a nonprofit that I run that works nationally. Um, and we're dedicated to making sure that kids have access to the arts in schools and communities and the benefits of creative learning. I have a PhD in curriculum studies, so I've thought a lot about instruction and what we teach and how we teach. And with an art background, my undergraduate degree is in theater. Thinking about the ways across time, across geographies, people come to understand um, the world around them and express that knowledge. There's a great thinker who was at Stanford, Elliot Eisner. He wrote beautifully about arts education, specifically about the cognitive impacts of making and interpreting art. And one of the things that we talked about that resonates with me is he talks about each symbol system of the arts, whether it's visual or sound in music or movement in dance, holds non-redundant information. You can learn something about a sunset, say, from seeing a painting of a sunset. And it's different information than seeing the the algebraic expression of the refraction of light that causes a sunset.
Okay.
Colors. Those are two different symbol systems that hold two different sets of information that's not the same. And so by only studying the text or the numbers about the world around us and not studying deeply the images of the world around us or the sounds of the world around us or the art forms that have created based on those symbol systems, we lose something. And Elliot Eisner was one of the first to articulate in really powerful ways for the education community how that builds a set of cognition that allows information processing to happen in a more deep way. My work at MINDPOP is to make sure that we employ some of the techniques of art in our general instruction so kids have all of those ways to build a schema, to build an understanding of concepts, and to express their understanding. So we work with schools and communities to bring those simple techniques that teachers can use to help kids learn.
How would, say, somebody who is very sort of analytically minded, like let's say, an engineer, chemist, or something like that, how can they use creative strategies to help them, think scientifically?
In math, for example, there's two parts of mathematics. There's sort of the logistical computation, but there's also the conceptual understanding. Art can help with that conceptual piece. It's abstract. It's metaphoric sometimes, our understanding. And so by using some artistic processes, scientists can find better problems. They can generate more solutions that they ultimately employ. So the scientific process includes a lot of things that are very creative and very artistic. And if we fail to give kids the opportunity to practice those creative generative moments, we're doing our kids a disservice.
Okay, here's the annoying question to follow up on.
Yeah.
If I'm thinking about artificial intelligence, which, obviously it's on everybody's mind constantly, whether we know it or not, and it's relatively new. What is it? It's been maybe 3 years or so when, everybody's sort of dialed in to, choose your LLM or whatever. Um, but what's weird is when you think about the creative processes, w- when you think of artificial intelligence, it's dealing with the past, right? It's sort
Mhm.
of building a sort of consensus argument based on the history of mankind. But it's not looking forward in the other direction. I think that's where artists are still absolutely critical. Yeah, AI can sort of simulate a text by Oscar Wilde or something like that, you know, but it cannot repeat something that hasn't happened yet. I mean, only the creative class can sort of create the future.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know enough to really respond
Yeah.
well, but there is a lot of there's talk about this generative AI where they're proposing to do that, but in my Luddite experience, I haven't seen that. Where they're really building new knowledge. So it becomes an aggregation tool. It becomes a synthesis tool. It could even become an analysis tool as a dumb user of it.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Um, but is it a generative tool, a creative tool? I haven't figured out how to do that in the pure sense of generating new knowledge, of generating new images to express a specific idea that is not a rehash of other people or a stealing of other people's ideas.
Yeah. If that really takes hold, then I'm really gonna be scared.
Right, right.
Because I understand if it's just sort of spitting out, information that's just been accumulated over, eons, right?
A better encyclopedia.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Very efficient
yeah.
encyclopedia is just right there and it's, at your fingertips,
Mhm.
whatever. But moving forward, looking forward, it's the creative people are the ones that sort of create the future. Thinking about the strategies that you're employing at MindPop make me think of somebody like, like Steve Jobs or something like that, where he considered himself, he- I don't know, he didn't consider himself an artist. He was probably considered himself more of a designer, but he had a deep, deep, deep appreciation for the arts. Yeah, there's something really to be said about this idea of just the creative mind
Yeah.
and where that.
I don't know. I don't believe that there's anything new under the sun. Everything is iterative, and Steve Jobs inventing the iPhone didn't come from nowhere,
Yeah.
right? And so, artists, uh, you know, I make my work based upon work I've seen, work I've known, on the shoulders of giants, if you will, but my work doesn't just spring from nothing. And so it is, as an artist, you are an amalgamation of all the things you've learned and all the people that have interacted with you to help you along your journey, right? So I don't know. Um, I think there's real potential for damage through AI, just like there has been amazing damage through the internet. Even though there's been great things, it's been a powerful tool
Yeah.
for good. It's been a powerful tool for evil, and I think the same will be said for AI. But I also think that for an artist, I don't think artists won't use it. I think artists will definitely use it, but again, it becomes an iterative tool for something else. I don't think AI will just spit out the new Picasso. I don't think that will happen, but who knows? I could be naive.
How does that conversation fit in with your work in the dance world? Because a physical body is in movement, through time and space. It's not in a sort of theoretical space. It's very concrete. I'm just trying to think about how these kinds of conceptual concerns can sort of be in dialogue with dance. Uh,
Well, I mean, dance has a history of using technology. Like early examples of that might have been, in the 90s with, sensors causing, backdrops to shift the shape as the dancers are moving through the space. I think we've seen those sort of things. Um, so I don't know how AI will affect dance making, but dancers, dancers will always be necessary in the art form of dance, always.
mhm.
As long as people are still interested in going to a theater or to an alternate space to see a human body move. That can't be replaced.
Yeah.
Now, if people decide they'd rather watch dance on film, that's something else. But if you're talking about a live experience with a human, that seems irreplaceable to me.
Huh.
Photography didn't replace painting, it became a separate thing, right? And I think that when we think about the mediation of technology in an art form, it has more potential to create a separate other thing that has roots than to simply replace.
Also, they're talking, I've seen examples of working with robots, to make dances happen. Um, and obviously it's very awkward and it's at the early stages of making this sort of thing happen. But the truth of the matter is it's still a machine. And when you're talking about art and, from my perspective, dance, you're talking about something that only a human body can share because you're sharing your emotion and you're sharing your ideas about movement and you're sharing something that's singular, right? I have a singular body. I'm on a stage doing something that only I can do.
And it's not just the formal construction of the
It's not the
arm
formal
to the left and
construction
the
of
leg
it,
to the right.
right? Um, and so that is really the thing that will separate, I think, the creation and display of art from AI is the humanity of it.
What sort of advice you would give to a young creative person who sort of wants to make their mark in the world today? Um, Either it be through business or through art. How can somebody sort of add their grain of sand to the beach of consciousness?
Well, I mean, first of all, you have to do it. You have to learn by doing. And understanding that success only comes through failure, and not to be afraid of that part of it. I think that more failure happens than success, but it's the journey that's the most important part of it. Because what you're doing as an art maker is, you're doing this thing that you love, hopefully. And that's sort of the external part of it. But the internal part of it is in the process of making this art, you're learning about yourself. And there's no other reason to live through life if you're not exploring yourself.
Early in my life, I was a professional actor and director. And then I was a teacher and taught at university. And then at one moment, I said those two things aren't separate, and that my lived experience could help bring those two things together to make change for the way we educate kids and for the way kids learn. And for me, that realization that my lived experience and all of the time and study that I put in to learn things could help others. And I needed others to realize that dream. So I learned from mentors. I connected myself to people who could help me make that vision a reality. And I just tried and never stopped learning, never stopped making sure that I had people around me who could help, who shared the vision and could help make it happen. So my advice to a young person is acknowledge your lived experience, what you have to learn and share with the world. Articulate what kinds of changes you want to see in the world, and find the people in the world who can help you make it happen. And do it. If you make it a little bit better, you win.
I think that's an excellent place to stop, y'all. Brent and Stephen, thank you so much for your time today.
It was a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you.
You're so charming. Thanks for coming.
I do my best.